Hey guys, Boy here, and this is still Shaker Week. Today we're talking about how to play after the 5-minute mark until your Blink Dagger gets ready. If you watched last episode, you already know the best skill build for the hero, so now we have to talk about how to put those points in use to be effective. By the way, if you didn't watch the last episode, you probably should because, it's pretty cool. One thing you can cross off your list is jungling, just so we are clear on that. In that teams game we were discussing back then, this is the third gank he goes for in the mid lane, and that happens because Storm is an easy target. He has a sentry showing that no vision is available in this part of the map, so all he has to do is worry about when he shows middle. Since he comes from this angle, a mid ward is way less likely to show where he is unless it's farther to the right, which wasn't. Since there is none, he can initiate with Fissure, follow up, and pay attention how he doesn't keep hitting. His DPS is negligible without his cooldown, so he avoids any stuns or damage from the Jakiro so that he can use other spells later if necessary, but that was not the case. Interestingly enough, he has a ward that he places in a super hard to reach spot. This works because it's nighttime and it allows him to get a ward that will very likely not be dewarded. As he leaves the Radiant Triangle, he finds an Invis room, but unfortunately Storm got his level 6 before he tries to go on him. That being said, note how quickly he finds out that Jakiro is warding middle by clicking him, and that he is not scouted. So they try to go for the Storm, but thanks to Jakiro being there, Storm survives. As you can see, Soul Ring really enables Shaker to fight early, and I'm a big fan of the Soul Ring before even Tranquil Boots. Some people might argue that Arcane Boots is better and just slightly more expensive, which is kinda true, but I myself am a big fan of the Tranquils plus Soul Ring combo. Mobility is king on this hero, and in your meantime without Blink Dagger, Tranquils makes you able to be in more places faster, whilst you have, Eternal HP regen and Mana regen. After getting Revenge middle, Timms understands that ganking Storm is not really the best idea anymore. He also knows that most heroes spam TPs mid, making bottom a great target for Dagger. The move speed plus the extra strong duration of Fissure allows his allies to follow up and Timms to recover in terms of experience since he roamed so much in the beginning. It also means he's ready to fight at all times pretty much. He even goes for this insane high IQ play. If we go back to the Jakiro kill, a courier was flying around. The courier gets protected and sent to the edge of the map. When that happens, most players send the courier that route all the way towards the fountain. Again, since it's nighttime, since he's fast, since he has Ancient Totem, he can sneak in since the creep's already passed, find a little corner there and snipe the courier. I'm just speechless. This is probably a given, but hitting as many heroes with your Fissure in the early game is one of the best ways for you to be useful, since, damage equals enemy taking damage, and that's kinda cool. Note how Timms takes a long time to finally get the 3-man Fissure here. It's actually even better because he waits for the stun duration of the Storm to be running off as he finds the perfect Fissure, ultimately killing the Storm. There's probably a whole video to be made about using resources the rest of your team is not using. Low and more supports complain all the time that their cores on jungling, and that means free lanes. High and more supports would kill for that shit, and since no fighting is happening and the span is dead, Timms can benefit from one full wave that will go to waste if he was not there, so nicely done. By the way, Timms fucked up his first echo. There you go, I'm flaming a pro player. He tries to block the Chant creeps for the rune, he blocks himself and goes for a quite Pepega echo here, and he dies, but that's okay. One thing that I really like that he does, and that low and more supports will fucking die if they saw, is him buying this one, right? He almost had 1000 gold, he then dies, and he proceeds to spend more gold on an item that is not Blink Dagger. How he can win Dota without a Blink Dagger? And the answer is fighting better. He's been a part of 7 kills, and Raiden has a shit ton of low cooldown spells. Usually what you see is Tick being purchased in lane, but since Timms was not in lane constantly, he only realizes the value of it later on. What you're about to see is not safe for work footage. If you're below 3k MMR, Bowie doesn't recommend this footage because it can spiral your bad life decisions really quickly. This is one of the very few and rare occurrences of Timms jungling. Look at the map, he TPs here to deward his jungle, his core is farming top, his echo is on cooldown, and he has no one to play with. After that happens though, mid is being pushed and he moves his friend to deal with it. He gets a 2-man Fissure, a decent fight starts brewing up, but note how he doesn't go in for an Ancient Totem. There's actual Micro Pyre on the ground, Mar still has his ult, Echo is on cooldown. He would die and acquire nothing here. He chills for now, accepts his allies died, and then he cancels the Jug's Clarity, hits a 2-man Fissure whilst blocking the push for 10 seconds. It might feel like small victories for you, but that's all about Shaker. You want to be as useful as you can while surviving, amassing golden experience to then become that big boy. You know, a lot of players, they just get frustrated. They're like, oh, I'm showing up in fights and I'm just dying, so I'm gonna jungle. But they don't understand the boundaries of their heroes and what they should and should not do in particular, times of the game. And that's normal. You do need a lot of games to start fighting those things. But I'm telling you, just show up to fights, and if you die, just try to realize why you're dying. Don't get into that mindset of jungling, because it's just wrong and you're just wasting your time. Anyways, it's clear he cannot defend. He runs bottom, and that's a creep wave his team cannot farm because some of them are dead, and that he knows he's safe since the entire Radiant team was middle just now. Right now, his team doesn't have someone for teams to play around with. While he has Echo, it's just unlikely he can, run up to a Storm or a Jug and get his spells off, so he jungles. Not because it's a good idea, but because it's the only play he has unless Radiant pushes and forces something. And that's one big mistake some players constantly make. One thing is jungling while nothing is happening. The other is not TP into a fight because you think getting the blink is always better than any possibilities that fight might bring to you. Some players understand that TP into a fight is you have to commit and throw yourself, and a lot of the times if you do that aimlessly, you're going to die. I said life, and you don't have to do it. Tim's is about to finish the item, by the way, and his allies die. But note that this is not a place he can quickly access with a TP. This is why he runs to the creep wave instead. But there's a clear distinction that has to be made. When Radiant starts pushing mid tier 2 instead of going for this catapult that for sure will debate a hero bottom to kill him, he TPs to the mid tier 3 knowing Echo is ready. He is 100 gold away from Blink, but he is there, throwing fissures, being ready in case a good Echo shows up. It's maybe unlikely to happen, but since he's there, his team is comfortable trading that tower for a kill without losing everyone in the process, whilst he finished the Blink Dagger away and, unable to use it. It's mega unlikely he would be able to get the Blink and show up for the fight anyway, so why not show up? He doesn't have to put himself in danger, but there's definitely less to lose overall if he is there. Since he has Blink, he can shred the Juggernaut here, maybe overkill, but in all honesty, for a Jug to be there, running up ramps at nighttime, he has to have a ward, so he was just going to spin, or he has to be a little high or very careless. Anyways, let's jump back to another replay. Crit is playing now, and things are looking rough. His mid gets jumped, Fissure was on cooldown, and in this game, he's 1-1-2 instead of 2-1-1. I think the reasoning here is that Dagger has 3 melee heroes, whereas in the last game, they only had 2, and Jugger barely counts, since he can always telegraph your spells and spin. But focusing on this game, after he dies, he ends up going top again. Storm is already level 6, so he's mega hard to gank, and his Void is 5. Note how he engages in the lane here. He engages through this angle that allows him to possibly block the Slark. Yes, he has Pounce, but just dealing damage and forcing spells means his Mirana can now farm safe, since Pounce was used. It doesn't look amazing, but it makes a huge difference, especially with a matchup like this one. One interesting thing to note is that in any other game, Crit will deal a lot of damage to this Warlock as he retreats. But in this game, he understands that the more he shows, the more likely he is to be charged, so he just boops and gets out. He keeps going for the same play over and over again, and a tilted 3k would be like, oh my god, you're stealing my experience and doing nothing. You cannot kill the Slark, you dum-dum. But the reality is quite the opposite. Not only Mirana is farming way better because of Shaker being there, the Slark that should have the upper hand in the matchup cannot do anything besides existing, instead of being aggressive. As we talked about, the longer he shows, the more likely he will be charged, and that happens now. Luckily though, since he enabled the Mirana, Moonlight Shadow is up and they get a kill in return. One might say that Crit is getting nothing done here, but that's really wrong. Since he has Soul Ring and Tranquils, he has infinite mana and HP, whereas Dagger is dying, wasting mana, faring more regen, whilst his core farms, and Crit gets passive golden experience, and that's amazing for a Shaker. If he was farming instead of being here, not only Mirana would suffer immensely, Slark would be huge, and he wouldn't even get that much gold anyway, since he's only level 4. This hero can jungle when you're like level 8, level 7. But anyways, look how this hero fights. No Echo, no Blink. His Void gets ganked and dies. He wanted to get the... Oh boy. Alright guys, I was having a great time making this script, and as I recorded a voice, I spilled water in my keyboard. The keyboard proceeded to get very angry at me. Every time I clicked icons, it will try to delete it. It erased the entire script. It erased the rest of my audio. So this is me talking after 3 hours of me drying said keyboard, rewriting the script, high and drunk, and after recording a voice, I noticed that I actually didn't press the button, so I'm recording it again. I'm kinda mad, but enjoy yourselves because this took a lot of work. Anyways, he wanted to get a 2-man feature here. He fails, but he keeps dishing damage. By the way, that stick is actually what allowed him to feature in the first place, since he was very low on mana when the fight started. He gets mana for his Enchant Totem because of that stick later on. And the core of it all is, since he TP'd to this fight, and he made things happen, he stirred the pot, he just baits Dagger in a terrible fight. It feels like Dagger will get away scotch-free, but instead Storm decides to join the fight, yet Chrono was never used. Not only the Chrono allows Mirana to get a 5-second arrow on the Storm, since the Spirit Breaker dies, just watch Crit play. He had stick ready, he could have panicked, but he used the fissure on the Storm to make sure he gets the kill, but he goes one step further. He waits for the stun to wear off to maximize his spells, and you know, that's okay. But he goes 2 steps further, in fact. Not only he does that, but he makes sure that the stun he delivers hits 3 people, and since he freaking TP'd that early, he got enough experience to get level 6 mid-fight, and because of the stun and the block, since everyone was stunned, he buys time for his Soul Ring to get an Echo Slam that is beautiful. It's been a while, but this is crispy as all hell. He obviously buys the Tome, and note that he has eyes on the top lane. Right now there are 2 free lanes, and since his Mirana decides to grab Metal, he walks top. The usual thing to do when Echo is on cooldown and all the lanes are occupied, you know, his core went back so he cannot lane there anymore, is jungling. But Crit is constantly looking around. After all, they have a lot of mobility on the enemy team, and he's already needed bot. He TP's there, nothing, you know, concrete happens, but this just goes to show what your mindset playing this hero should be. He's so useful in teamfights that jungling is just a waste of your time. His Void ends up dying top, since he TP'd bottom, he couldn't be there, he could not save him, but the move now is to enjoy this lane once it pushes. By the way, this is a great showing of why getting the second pointing fissure is great. Know how the stun duration is enough for him to walk up to the Warlock, get the Aftershock stun bursting him down, and he just keeps on going. This hero, with these items, is a fighting machine. Low cooldowns, reasonably fast, with pretty decent reach, and that's just how you're supposed to play the hero. You might get a 2-minute faster blink by not fighting and jungling, but everyone else on the Dire side will be stronger, so does it matter? Well, the answer is very frequently no, it doesn't, or else you would be higher MMR probably. Note how even though everything is fine and Radiant is pushing, Crit is not jungling, and I know at this point you understand that jungling is bad, but it's also about how to retreat from fights and places. You and your team should play for each other, and by that I mean, if someone wants to disengage, he needs to make sure that everyone else can do the same and vice versa. So even though in theory he could be hitting that large camp nearby, he's making sure that if the Spirit Breaker and Storm are there, he can react instantly, especially since his Echo Slam is up. This is also probably the greatest showing of why smoking with your team is great. I guess greatest is a little exaggerated. I'm drunk right now. They smoke while Echo is up, which is a good idea, and what they end up finding is only a Spirit Breaker. The big deal, though, is first how Crit plays this. Great block, meaning Echo is saved for posterity, but watch what happens as they disengage, with Spirit Breaker still dead. Storm was nearby, and he felt like he could play around with Crit. Well, as the Storm attacks again, meaning he cannot zip, he echoes, setting up an arrow that kills the Storm, that forces a Golem, whilst Dagger's only follow-up is a Slark, since, you know, Storm is dead, Spirit Breaker is still respawning. And, you know, Dagger, they feel like they have to punish this. They dived Mirana, and since Crit is still there, and he has those items, he can once again follow up after the Chrono is over. Killing the Spirit Breaker again, saving the Drow, getting a 2-man fissure, and you know, that's it. Since he has Tranquils, he can go for the bounty. He's never going back to the base, knowing he will regen, and the impact he had is so big already. This is the first time he jungles this game, since top is too pushed and Storm is back, so he has to be afraid of him. But it just goes to show how this hero is actually very, very good at fighting if you have the right items, skill build, and mentality. Guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. This video took a while, especially because of all of these technical issues that I had. Next video, we're going to talk about how to fight with your Blink Dagger. We're going to talk about item choices, talent choices, how to play around your team the best, when you should echo, and etc. It's been, a pleasure to make these videos. I know I'm not casting TI. I would love to be doing that. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity of doing so. On top of that, if you want this channel to be more sustainable, if you want to pay a new keyboard for Bowie, make sure to check those Patreon rewards. They really help this channel, become a little bit more sustainable. I'm also coaching, so you can check that in the description. And there is also my social media, so you can follow me on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, whenever you want. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Be safe out there, and bye.